Boston, Massachusetts, 2009. The city hums with the rhythm of college life, bustling streets, and the quiet pulse of ambition. In the midst of it lives Philip Markoff, a 23-year-old medical student at Boston University whose life seems scripted for success. Tall, handsome, and impeccably groomed, Philip embodies the image of the ideal young professional. His classmates admire him. Professors praise his intellect and dedication. Friends describe him as charming, polite, and ambitious, a man with a future bright enough to illuminate every room he enters. Philip's personal life mirrors his public image. He's engaged to Megan McAllister, a young woman who matches his poise and social grace. Their relationship is devoted, picture-perfect, a partnership built on mutual respect, or so it seems. They live together in a tidy, modern Boston apartment, the kind of space that screams stability and order. To anyone looking from the outside, Philip's life is enviable: academic achievement, social approval, and a loving partner. Every detail is controlled, polished, rehearsed. But beneath the carefully constructed facade, an invisible line divides Philip's world. One side is public, the side everyone sees: the ambitious medical student, the loving fiancé, the polite young man walking confidently through the city streets. The other side is hidden, darker, almost impossible to reconcile with the person the world knows. This hidden side will eventually shock a city, a country, and the very people who loved him. The first signs are subtle. Law enforcement begins investigating a string of disturbing assaults in Boston, all tied to Craigslist. Young women report being lured to their apartments by advertisements promising massage services. Once inside, they are overpowered, tied up, robbed, and terrorized. The attacks are unnervingly consistent, suggesting a meticulous planner who understands psychology, timing, and trust. Detectives notice patterns. The victims are selected carefully, the methods precise, the escape calculated. The perpetrator doesn't rush. He strikes with planning, using his charm and calm demeanor to disarm the women before violence erupts. Each incident leaves behind questions that are hard to answer. Who is this person? How can they be so normal on the surface, yet capable of such calculated aggression? At first, no one suspects Philip Markoff. He's a student, a familiar face in classrooms and cafes. He helps classmates with study sessions, laughed easily in social circles, and maintains the image of the perfect, polite young man. The contrast between his public persona and the terror in the victim's stories is almost cinematic. A man walking unnoticed, blending seamlessly into a city that never suspects him. Philip's dual existence is revealed slowly, piece by piece. Friends and family notice oddities, moments when he disappears unexpectedly, brief phone calls he guards jealously, hints of secretive behavior. But the signs are subtle enough that they are dismissed: stress from school, pressure from med school exams, the occasional need for privacy. No one can imagine that behind the mask of normalcy, he is actively planning violent assaults. As investigators dig deeper, digital breadcrumbs emerge. Craigslist ads, payment records, and timestamps reveal a chilling picture. Someone intelligent, methodical, and calculating. Someone capable of leading a double life. And the evidence begins to point, inexorably, toward Philip Markoff. This is where the tension escalates. The idea that someone so admired, so loved, could be responsible for these assaults creates a psychological unease that reverberates throughout the city. Friends struggle to reconcile the reality with the image they held. Professors question their own judgment. Family members grapple with denial and disbelief. Boston itself, a city known for its education and sophistication, begins to understand that evil can hide behind the most familiar face. The horror of Philip's hidden life lies not just in the assaults themselves, but in the terrifying ease with which he maintains his deception. By day, he is the aspiring doctor, the dutiful fiancé, the model student. By night, he becomes the predator, methodically targeting women, exploiting trust, and avoiding detection with almost clinical precision. The duality is surreal. It reads like fiction, yet every element is real, documented, and terrifying. As August 2009 unfolds, the city edges closer to confrontation. Each day brings more victims, more evidence, and a growing sense of dread. Philip Markoff's perfect life is a veneer, and beneath it, a darkness spreads like a shadow over Boston. The story is no longer just about assaults or Craigslist ads. It becomes about a city's trust betrayed, the fragility of appearances, and the terrifying question of how well we really know the people around us. By the end of this act, the audience is left suspended on the edge of disbelief. Philip Markoff is charming, brilliant, and dangerous. His life appears ordinary, yet every detail is part of a carefully orchestrated dual existence. The tension mounts because everyone knows, even if they don't yet understand, that the perfect life is about to unravel in ways that will shock the city, the nation, and all who thought they knew him.
Boston, late 2009. The city, unaware of the full scope of the danger, is settling into its usual rhythm. Students move between lecture halls, professionals rush down streets, and neighborhoods hum with ordinary life. Yet beneath this veneer of normalcy, a predator walks among them, carefully hidden behind a mask of charm and ambition. The first official reports trickle in. Women assaulted after responding to Craigslist ads offering massage services. Initially, police see them as isolated incidents, strange but not necessarily linked. Yet subtle details hint at something more. Each victim describes a man who is polite, well-spoken, calculated, someone who seems familiar, even trustworthy. The attacks follow a pattern: entries through unlocked doors, swift overpowering, precise binding, and theft. There is no unnecessary violence beyond control. No one is killed, but each victim is terrorized, leaving psychological scars that will last a lifetime. Detectives begin connecting the dots. Phone records, email addresses, and timestamps form a web pointing toward one suspect. They cross-reference the descriptions with individuals in the area who fit the profile: young, educated, technologically adept, and seemingly ordinary. It is a list of people Boston knows well, but only one name begins to emerge with disturbing clarity: Philip Markoff. Investigators begin surveillance. They note his meticulous routines, his calculated movements, his careful maintenance of the perfect image. From the outside, he is exemplary. He attends medical lectures, studies late into the night, and shares quiet evenings with his fiancée. But in the background, a digital footprint reveals a darker side: Craigslist activity tied to his identity, ads carefully placed, a series of deceptions layered over everyday life. The contrast is jarring. To the public, Markoff is the ideal student: diligent, polite, ambitious. To law enforcement, he is methodical, cunning, and dangerous. The tension rises as authorities realize the predator is not some stranger in the shadows, but a man who could walk past anyone on the street,
blending seamlessly with normalcy. Every encounter he has could be a potential crime. Every movement is scrutinized, yet he remains undetected, walking a tightrope of dual lives. As the investigation intensifies, the psychological toll on those close to him becomes apparent. Friends, classmates, and family members begin questioning memories, small inconsistencies, and unexplained behavior. Megan McAllister, his fiancée, notices subtle shifts, unusual secrecy, defensiveness about late-night activities, and strange phone calls he cannot explain. Yet even she cannot imagine the scope of what is happening. Meanwhile, detectives work tirelessly, piecing together timelines and digital evidence. Credit card records, email chains, and phone logs converge to reveal a chilling picture. The attacks are not random, they are premeditated, calculated, and executed with a terrifying level of control. Each Craigslist ad, each victim interaction, each escape is a meticulously planned sequence designed to manipulate trust and exploit opportunity. The city itself feels the mounting tension. Media coverage begins to intensify, painting a picture of a predator who lurks behind the ordinary, a man whose intelligence and charm mask a disturbing capacity for violence. Boston watches in unease, realizing that safety is fragile, that danger can hide in plain sight. And then comes the break. Investigators discover a link between Philip and one of the most recent victims, a digital trail, seemingly small, almost trivial, but enough to confirm suspicions. A sting is planned, evidence is gathered, and the net begins to tighten around him. Markoff's world, once controlled and perfect, begins to collapse. The careful balance between his two lives starts to wobble. Every calculated move he made, every deception he relied on, is now under scrutiny, and while he may not know it yet, the trap is closing. The tension reaches its peak as law enforcement prepares for confrontation. Philip Markoff, the model student and beloved fiancé, is on the brink of exposure. His life, carefully constructed and polished, is about to shatter, revealing the dark reality lurking beneath the surface. The city of Boston, already unnerved, braces for the shock of seeing a man who seemed untouchable brought to justice.
Boston, 2009. The city hums with life, unaware that the net of justice is closing in on one of its most unassuming residents. Philip Markoff, the handsome, polite, ambitious medical student, has carefully maintained his perfect image, hiding a dark double life behind smiles, charm, and dedication to his studies. But every deception leaves a trace, and authorities are now poised to unravel the truth. It begins quietly. Detectives move methodically, piecing together digital evidence, victim statements, and behavioral patterns. Every email, every Craigslist post, every financial transaction is scrutinized, revealing a meticulously orchestrated trail that leads straight to him. The tension builds with each piece of evidence, like a clock winding down toward an inevitable confrontation. On the day of his arrest, Philip leaves his apartment, unaware that law enforcement is waiting. Officers surround his residence, carefully coordinated to avoid public chaos. He is approached calmly, almost politely, but the detective's presence is firm and unyielding. The reality crashes down. The man who seemed untouchable, the student who could walk any hallway unnoticed, is now caught in the light of scrutiny. As he is read his rights, the city begins to grasp the shocking duality of his existence. For neighbors, classmates, and friends, the revelation is surreal. They had seen him in classrooms, cafes, and apartment hallways, a picture of normalcy, never suspecting the hidden life that included manipulation, assault, and premeditated violence. The betrayal is visceral, the cognitive dissonance profound. In interrogation rooms, the facade begins to crumble. Philip is questioned about each assault, each Craigslist advertisement, each meticulously executed crime. His demeanor alternates between composed and evasive, a mixture of intelligence and discomfort, charm and detachment. Investigators uncover the methods he used to lure victims, exploit trust, and avoid suspicion. The revelations are both chilling and fascinating. A young man, brilliant and seemingly ordinary, capable of calculated violence with terrifying ease. The media seizes upon the story, broadcasting it nationwide. Boston watches in shock as the details emerge. The carefully constructed Craigslist ads, the premeditated attacks, the betrayal of trust. The narrative is gripping because it defies expectation. A medical student, engaged and ambitious, is revealed as a predator, a man capable of deception on a level that seems almost unreal. Public reaction is a mixture of horror and disbelief. Friends of the victims grapple with trauma and fear. Family members of Philip struggle with denial, unable to reconcile the image of the son, brother, or fiancé they knew with the perpetrator revealed by law enforcement. Psychologists dissect the case, probing the nature of dual lives, obsession, and hidden pathology. As the investigation closes, the scale of Philip Markoff's crimes becomes clear. He is linked to multiple assaults, each calculated, each executed with precision. The city of Boston realizes how close they came to overlooking a predator who blended seamlessly into everyday life. The shocking twist is not just his guilt, but the terrifying normalcy of the man behind the crimes. Boston, 2010. The city that once admired Philip Markoff as a bright, ambitious medical student now watches as he faces the consequences of a life built on deception, violence, and hidden obsession. The courtroom is packed, media cameras trained on every movement, and the tension is palpable. This is no ordinary trial. It is a study in duality, betrayal, and the dark extremes of human behavior. From the opening statements, the prosecution paints a chilling portrait. Philip is not just accused of assault, he is accused of leading a secret life as a calculated predator. The evidence is meticulous. Emails, Craigslist postings, bank transactions, and victim testimonies all converge to reveal a man who manipulated trust and orchestrated violence with cold precision. Each piece of evidence serves as a spotlight, illuminating the contrast between his public facade and his hidden darkness. Victims testify, their voices trembling yet determined. They recount moments that seem almost cinematic in their terror. The polite greeting, the initial trust, the sudden realization of danger, and the physical and psychological control Philip exerted. Each story adds layers to the narrative, showing not only the crimes themselves, but the psychological damage left in their wake. The courtroom is silent, absorbed in the tension of each testimony, each revelation heightening the sense of disbelief. As the trial progresses, shocking twists emerge. Friends and family of Philip describe a man who seemed flawless, yet investigators reveal moments of manipulation, secrecy, and deceit that no one could have anticipated. Even those closest to him are forced to confront the possibility that they never truly knew him. The dual life he led, medical student by day, predator by night becomes the central enigma, a psychological puzzle that fascinates and horrifies. The defense argues that Philip's actions were influenced by stress, personal pressure, and moments of poor judgment, attempting to mitigate the perception of calculated malice. But the prosecution dismantles this narrative with precision. Digital evidence shows premeditation, careful planning, and conscious manipulation. The contrast between his public persona and criminal actions is undeniable. Every tactic, every move, every Craigslist post is proof of intent. As the trial reaches its climax, the courtroom grapples with the emotional weight of the case. The media captures the collective shock of a city coming to terms with the truth. Families of victims find a measure of closure, yet the psychological scars remain. Friends and colleagues of Philip are left questioning the nature of trust and appearances, while society at large contemplates the unsettling lesson that someone can hide immense darkness behind an ordinary, even charming exterior.
Boston, years after Philip Markoff's arrest and conviction, remains haunted not just by the crimes themselves, but by the surreal duality of the man who committed them. A city that once admired him as a brilliant, ambitious medical student now grapples with the unsettling truth that appearances can be deadly deceiving. The story of Philip Markoff is no longer just about assaults or legal proceedings. It is about trust betrayed, the fragility of perception, and the dark corridors of human psychology. For the victims, life moves forward cautiously. Each carries the scars of fear, the trauma of betrayal, and the memory of a man who seemed ordinary, familiar, and safe, only to reveal a calculated, predatory side. Therapy sessions, interviews, and public statements reflect the resilience of those affected, but also the lingering horror of realizing how close normal life and terror can coexist. Friends and family of Philip are left in disbelief, attempting to reconcile the charming, intelligent young man they knew with the predator exposed in court. The cognitive dissonance is profound. How could someone so polite, so ambitious, so seemingly devoted to his fiancée lead a secret life that included violence and deception? The question lingers, unanswered, a chilling reminder of the gaps between perception and reality. Psychologists and criminologists examine the case extensively. Philip Markoff becomes a textbook study in duality, narcissism, and calculated manipulation. Experts analyze the careful orchestration of his crimes, the premeditation, and the psychological mechanisms that allowed him to maintain a flawless public persona while committing calculated assaults. Each revelation offers insight into human behavior, but also a reminder of how easily trust can be exploited. The media coverage continues to echo the shock felt by Boston and the nation. Stories, documentaries, and articles dissect every detail. The Craigslist ads, the careful planning, the seemingly ordinary life, the sudden unmasking. The case becomes a cautionary tale, a real-life thriller that blurs the line between normalcy and danger, intellect and malice. Even years later, the narrative retains its haunting resonance. Philip Markoff's story forces society to confront uncomfortable truths, that deception can hide behind charm, that evil can walk unnoticed in familiar places, and that the line between ordinary life and terror
is sometimes alarmingly thin. The legacy is psychological, societal, and profoundly human. A reminder that the most shocking stories are not always found in fiction, but in the calculated, hidden darkness of real life. In the end, the Craigslist Killer case is more than a crime story. It is a portrait of deception, a study in duality, and a chilling reminder that appearances can be fatal. Boston, the victims, and the world are left to reckon with the unnerving truth that sometimes those we think we know best are capable of actions we cannot imagine, and the shadows of their deeds linger long after the courtroom lights have dimmed.
If you enjoyed today's video, we thank you very much. Please like and subscribe to Rare Breed Chronicles. And let's dive into another story that defies the ordinary.